And we are back, and we have a very, very special guest with me, old friend Mr. Kenny Vance. Kenny, welcome back.
Hey, hi. Hi, Arnie. How you doing?
I am doing good, but the question is, how are you doing?
No, I'm doing good. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I recently heard an interview that you did with Bruce Morrow on Sirius.
Right.
And he, or you set the record straight. If you would be so kind as to tell the people what's going on and dispel all the rumors about what has happened to you, it would be greatly appreciated.
Okay. I don't know what the rumors are, but a couple of years back, I wound up having a medical problem. I had a problem with a dissection in my artery, and basically, so the doctors didn't want me to sing anymore. But there was nothing wrong with my voice. But so over these last 2 years, it's been 2 years. Slowly, I've been recovering. The wound, I guess as you could call it, has healed. Slowly, I'm starting to get my strength back where I can sing. I actually sitting here with a guitar. Maybe I'll sing a song later. I can sing and feel so, grateful. It's an amazing thing to be sick and to be removed from a part of life that you love, which was, making the CDs and performing and singing, which I had done since I'm a little boy. And so it's a tough pill to swallow, but, you accept it. You have to accept things. And then as time has gone by, it's like a miracle that I'm back feeling good, and so I just have a lot of gratitude. Feel very grateful for that. I don't know, is there anything else you want me to cover? I mean, basically, that's the story.
Well, we're glad to hear that, because there were a lot of rumors going around about throat cancer and a few nasty things that I'm glad to hear that none of those are true, and that you are definitely on the mend.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm going to have to sing a song for you to prove it.
Well, we're going to have you do that in a couple seconds, but...
No, that's all right. We'll do it towards the end, but go ahead, keep going.
Okay. Any timetable or any idea of when you are going to be able to start performing again?
I'm not so sure what, that's really a grueling thing to do. We would come out to see you guys in Pittsburgh, and, the actual performance of it is easy. It's the traveling that can really get to you. And so I'm not sure. I'm just going to take it one day at a time, take it slow. And I'm thinking sometimes within the next year or so, I would consider doing a few things. That's what I'm thinking right now.
Because I know I have had the pleasure of seeing your son Ladd a couple times over the last few months, and I've been asked, is there any possibility that you and Ladd are going to be hooking up to do some shows together in the Pittsburgh area?
Oh, that's a great idea. I possibly. It's all on the table at this point. When you get your health back, as we all know at this stage of the game, I mean, it's possible. It's all possible. I'm really proud of him, and I think that he's carrying on the tradition, and so I'm happy just to watch him do it. I see him on YouTube a lot and on some of those other services, and so that's really very gratifying to see him doing that.
Well, I'm prejudiced. I have gotten to know him over the last 4 or 5 months, and he is just a super individual. He's a chip off the old block, so to speak.
Thank you.
And Both you and him have been very kind, very gracious to me, and I cannot say thank you enough to both of you.
Well, we have a special place in our hearts for you because people like you are keeping the music that we all love alive, and you've dedicated your life to that. So, that doesn't go unnoticed by us. I just want you to know that. But Lad told me I had to discuss some West Coast doo-wop with you.
Yes. Yeah, because I don't know what the West Coast doo-wop is. I'm just familiar with all the good stuff out of the East Coast, out of New York, Carolinas, and so on.
Yeah, you probably, are much more familiar with stuff than you realize. I mean, just to review some of it, and I'm not looking at a book. It's just stuff that I remember as a kid. First of all, the Dutone label.
Right.
The Dutone label was from L.A., and it was run by a guy named Dootsy Williams. And of course, the record that we all know was Earth Angel by the Penguins. But he also had Don Julian and the Meadowlarks. Remember that?
Yes, I do. Heaven and Paradise.
Heaven and Paradise. What a beautiful, beautiful recording. And I can't think off the top right now of other songs, but certainly those two artists on Dutone, and then a few others. I can't think of it right now, but there's also Modern Record was out of L.A.
That was the Cadets, wasn't it?
The Cadets, and then the Cadets, and then the Teen Queens, Eddie My Love.
Okay.
Was on Modern, and the Clicks, Girl in My Dreams.
The old Jesse Belvin group.
With Jesse Belvin. And so Jesse Belvin, was with Marvin and Johnny. I think he took one of those guys, Cherry Pie. That was from the West Coast. And of course, you mentioned the Cadets. I mean, Strand in the Jungle, that was a killer. And I happen to know that when I was a kid, we were being produced by Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller. We would go take the subway from Brooklyn, and we would head into Manhattan, and they were producing the Coasters. And, what a thrill that was as a kid from Brooklyn to see that, and also the Drifters. And Dub Jones was the bass in the Cadets. He's the guy that does that part, Well, I Was Stranded in the Jungle. The
right.
section I'm referring to. That was Dub Jones from the Coasters. And Dub Jones was also the bass in another group that was from L.A. on the RPM label. RPM was a label out of, I guess it was, I might have been a subsidiary of Modern, I don't know, but the Jacks, Why Don't You Write Me?
Okay.
From L.A. And let me think.
Were the 16s from out in that area, too?
Yeah, absolutely. The 16s, Casual Look by the 16s on Flip Records. Yeah. And the 16s were from out there. And then, of course, Keen Records opened up. Oh, no. Before Keen, probably the biggest label of all was Specialty. Was from the West Coast, Art and Dorothy Roop, and they had Little Richard, and they had
Sam Cooke was on there too, wasn't he, for a while?
They had the Soul Stirrers on there, and then Sam Cooke was on there, and then he went to Keen, and that's before he was signed by RCA. But he went to Keen, and they had Wonderful World on Keen, and Jan and Arnie were from out there.
The old Arwen label.
That's right. So, you probably, you know all this stuff.
Okay, I didn't realize that was considered to be doo-wop, though.
Well, okay, so let's leave that out. But, the Soul Stirrers were on Specialty, And that, of course, became, that was the group Sam Cooke was with. And I'm sure, we're leaving so much out. And, Richie Valens was from out there. And he did, La Bamba and O'Donna, which is a great doo-wop song. Okay. The Robins, right? The Robins
right.
Became the Coasters. Yeah.
I know that there were a lot of good groups from the West Coast. Four Preps was one of my favorite groups from the West Coast. But again,
I'm sorry. No, this was mostly L.A., though. You see, San Francisco, once you got out of L.A. and headed north, the doo-wop didn't really exist there, except Bobby Freeman was from San Francisco, and he did, Do You Want to Dance? But his beautiful doo-wop ballad was Need Your Love So Bad.
I'm not familiar with that one.
It's a beauty. Yeah,
I'm going to have to dig it out.
Yeah, Need Your Love So Bad, Bobby Freeman. Beauty. Yeah.
Okay, let me ask the important question. What's the future of the Planetones? I know that Frenchie has moved on. Are the other guys still available for you once you decide that you're going to start singing again?
I speak to Johnny Gale all the time, and he's with me. So that's the nucleus of the group, and so we'll see. I'm actually going to head back. Well, I'm going to head back to New York. I've been down in Florida recuperating. I'm going to head back to New York for a while, in a couple of months probably, and get with Johnny, and we're going to go into a rehearsal studio and do some singing and playing, and we're going to look at each other, and we're going to figure out, where we're going to go with it.
Okay, let's turn to something a little bit more tragic, for lack of a better word. A couple of your old buddies I see have passed away recently. Wally Rooker from the Heartbeats, and last week Carlo from the Belmonts. I know that you had done some recording with Wally, but what's it like to see some of the guys that you had sung with going on to their final reward?
What can you say? It's tragic, as you said. Lee Andrews, of course.
Yes.
And then Pete Anders from the lead singer of the Vidells, Mr. Lonely.
Yeah.
He was also a real good friend. And all of these guys passed away within the last 2 weeks. As a matter of fact, I just spoke to Joe Esposito, a good friend of mine who was with the Brooklyn Dreams and also one of the original Planetones. He told me that there's going to be a service for Carlo down here in the South Florida area, and I'm going to actually make it my business to go there probably with Gary Bonner, who was one of the Planetones, and he's a guy that wrote Happy Together by the Turtles. He lives down here, and so we're probably, I'm going to make it my business to go over there and pay my respects. Though these guys were the guys, as you know, Lee Andrews and Carlo, I mean, they were magic. And when we were kids, we were 14, 15 years old, we heard these people. Carlo, one of the greatest records ever made was I Wonder Why, and you hear Carlo, with that great baritone bass part. And when I was 15 years old, we played on the Clay Cole show. He was like a local Dick Clark in New York.
I'm familiar with him.
And the Harbor Lights, we had a record out on Jarrow Records, and it was me, Sandy, and Sidell, and we wound up going on to we got a booking on the Dick on Clay Cole. I was about 16 years old. And we walk in, and Dion and the Belmonts were there. I almost fainted. Oh, my God. Because they, to me, were the epitome of everything that was rock and roll at the time, doo-wop at the time, and also rebellion at the time. Because we grew up in a time that we wanted things to change. And rock and roll was the thing that separated us from, the rest of the world, actually. And one of the first songs we learned was going down in the subway and learning "I Wonder Why." And so meeting those guys and meeting Carlo was just, really something that you never forget. And when Freddie passed away, Freddie Milano, a few years back, I went to pay my respects there, and also, I held those guys in very high esteem.
Yeah, they were national treasures, and
national treasures, absolutely.
And we're sorry to see them pass, but it seems like we're losing more and more people every day because
because of the internet and things like that, we're much more familiar with it, I guess, than people were at a different time. But this is the way of the world. You get to be a certain age, and this is you just have to be grateful every day that you're enjoying the day, and you see it all over the place, and it's pretty scary, and you realize that this is part of life.
Okay, tell us about your new CDs, The Lost and Found, Volumes 1 and 2.
Well, thank you for asking. Actually, I'm so proud of them. Those CDs, while I was, recuperating, I still, wanted to do something, but I didn't know what that was until I started to research and recover. I mean, another thing that happened to me was that, this is crazy, but I lost my house. I know that's pretty far out, but I lost my house in the hurricane.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
That was 3 years ago. And then 2 years ago, I lost my career, basically, up to a point. But, what happened was that there were people that had archived a lot of my unreleased material, songs that I had written for movies, songs, the demos of songs, and things like that, that when I revisited those songs and I listened to the audio of some of them, they were really fine. And I decided to put them together on a CD, and the first CD was Lost and Found Volume 1, and the response was so overwhelming and so gratifying that I decided to see if there was enough material for another one, and there really was. And some of the recordings on those volumes are just, to me, treasures that I'm so happy that they all exist on those two discs. If I had kept touring, I never would have put them together because I never would have thought of it. But because I had the downtime, you always have to look for why is this happening to me, and what good is it? And the good that came out of it was that I was able to put those two volumes together, Lost and Found Volume 1 and 2. So thank you for that, asking about that.
Volume 2 is a unique CD because I looked at it, I've listened to it, and half the songs on there I was not familiar with. So if I found some new material that I just didn't know. American Lovers I'd never heard. Moonlight I didn't know.
Yeah.
Take a Dip with Donna I think is a great song. I like that, but I'd never heard it.
Yeah. Well, no one ever heard these songs. That was the whole point of it. These were songs that would have stayed on my shelf in my house forever, and they never would have wound up on a compilation ever. So the fact that they all exist on those two discs, it's like kind of collecting all of your stuff and putting it in one place. And to me, the fact that I found a live version on Volume 2 of Gloria, which is from the Mohican Sun. It's a casino back east, and the recording of that and the performance on that, I have to say, is just a joy to have that I had found that, and that I was able to put that on that CD.
Okay, one other song I want to ask you about on that. Tell us about the Madison song. Is Madison your granddaughter?
Madison is my granddaughter. I can't believe she's 14 now. I wrote that song when she was just a little baby. I actually, the version of that song is it on volume 1 or 2?
Volume 2.
On volume 2 was recorded by somebody on a device in Meadville. We played there, and that beautiful recording of that song was captured the night we played in Meadville. And it's basically, I mean, the gist of the song was when I would go to visit Madison and her brother in California, my son had an acoustic guitar that I would play it, and I would strum it, I would strum it, and she would put her ear to the guitar, and she started to say, dee, 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 dee. So she thought my name was DT. So she started to call me DT. And basically, that's the gist of the song. I say, there's a beautiful girl named Madison, and I said, but her name is Madison, and I said, I'm her grandfather. They call me DT. Something to that effect. But that's how that song came about.
Well, let me offer you congratulations also on, I know you're going to be a grandpap again before too very long.
Yeah, isn't that something? Lad is having his first child, and very, very excited about that. And I'm looking forward to, sharing that experience with my son and his wife.
Okay, would you like to mention your website, Ken?
Only if you, sure, if you like.
Yes, most definitely.
Sure, I guess it's, I don't even know. I guess you could just Google Kenny Vance, or it's www.kennyvance.com. That'll work. Yeah.
And both the Lost and Found CDs are available on the website, is that correct?
Yeah, I really, I'm not like pushing. I just think that they're just really great. I'm real proud of them. So if anyone's interested in those, you can go on the website and go on the shop page. There's, all of the CDs are there.
Okay, I know I told you I was only going to keep you a few minutes, and we're running a little bit longer. I don't want to tire you out, but I am going to ask you if you will pick up the guitar. And if
are you hearing any traffic noises from downstairs?
No, not at all.
All right, let me see. I'm not sure if I can hold the phone. Let's see. Can you hear this phone?
Yes.
Can you hear the guitar?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Let me look.
Yeah, I can hear you.
That?
Yeah.
Mine's out to you is sincere. This I promise you. Both night and day, on my knees and I pray. I ask the Master to reveal the sincereness of my love, night and day, on my knees and I pray. I sit around wondering about this new affair. Shall I go or proceed or not? Take care. My vow to you is sincere, this I promise you. Both night and day, on my knees and I pray. On my knees and I pray.
Sounds very good.
What do you mean very good?
I like it. I like it. Hey, that's the first time I've heard Kenny Vance live in over 2.5 years.
Yeah.
I love it to pieces.
Thank you, Arnie.
And when we put this up on my webpage, that everybody in the world will be able to hear that, and they'll know that you are coming back.
This friend of mine was down here in Florida, and a couple of weeks ago, we did a couple of songs, and he put them up on Facebook.
I saw that.
Oh, you did? Okay, so you might want to tell people to check that out, because I don't really know how that works or anything, but we did that, and we got we got about almost 10,000 hits on that, and, in a couple of days, so we were thrilled about that, and so I don't know how to do it, but if anyone's listening and they know how to check it out on Facebook, you might enjoy that.
We will see what we can do about getting that up. Before I let you go, I want to thank you so much for taking time to talk with us again. It's been a while, and Kenny, you're always welcome on the show. You've been more than kind to us for the 10 years that I've known you. No, in fact, it's probably been about 14 years since we first met, and
wow.
we love it. We love it to pieces. But I'm going to ask you to do one thing for me before I let you go, and I'm going to ask you to play disc jockey. And if you would introduce one more song for us, I want to play your version of Gloria from the Lost and Found Volume 2.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Arnie. First of all, thank you, again, we're sort of, mutual admiration society in the sense that you're keeping the music alive. People love this music, and this to me is the greatest music. It's so pure, it's so honest, and the greatest music that America ever produced. And hopefully one day, as people, younger people in college and they're doing research, will find this music and it'll have a place in that it deserves in American culture. The song that you're referring to that was found, a guy, the sound man, actually came over to me after the show. I'm not sure what year it was, but he came over to me after the show and he says, I hope you don't mind, but I taped the show. And it was on a cassette. And the cassette stayed on my shelf, and then when I was doing Lost and Found Volume 2, I found this, listened to it, and says, oh my God, I just love this. So here it is from the Mohican Sun, Kenny Vance and the Planetones with Gloria.
Okay, thank you so much, Kenny, and here it goes.
Oh, Gloria, it's not Mary, it's Gloria. It's not Sherry, it's Gloria, and she's not in love with me. Oh, can't you see It's not Mary, it's Gloria. It's not Sherry, it's Gloria, and she's not in love with me. Well, maybe she loves me, but who am I to know? Well, maybe she wants me, but who am I to know? It's Gloria. It's not Mary, it's Gloria. It's not Sherry, it's Gloria, and she's not in love with me. And she's not in love with me.
Mr. Kenny Vance from the CD Lost and Found Volume 2. And our special thanks to Kenny for joining us. And if you heard, he sang live, so you know that he is doing well and hopefully be back in the area before you know it.
believe.